The sneaky shift to a Bitcoin standard. This is the post that we had on Maple Bitcoin yesterday. It says countries that adapt first will win. Countries that adapt last will fall. Companies that adapt first will win. Companies that adapt last will fail. Individuals that adapt first will win. Individuals that adapt last will also win. That's my theory. That's on Maple Bitcoin Noster. We posted on X as well. And it did really well on X. And there were some people who were asking for an explanation on the individual aspect of that. So it ties into game theory in terms of the countries and the companies, but I want to focus on the individuals here. So the last part there said individuals that adapt first will win, and individuals that adapt last will also win. And I should have probably added a caveat there saying they just won't win as much. They won't have as much in the short term anyways. But kind of my whole theory on this, and the reason why this post came to be, is that I really believe that we're going through we're shifting to a Bitcoin standard right now, and most people have no idea. And kind of my theory on this is that back in 1971, we basically went through the same kind of thing, where Nixon took the US off the gold standard. And if you put yourself back into that spot in 1971, you can imagine how many people actually not only watched that press conference with Nixon, but how many people actually understood what was happening there. So I think if you look back to 1971, if you actually went to a website called WTF Happened in 1971, you would see how much of a free fall the world went into after the US went off the gold standard, after they had the ability to create money without any sort of energy backing that money. So up until that point, currency, the dollar, was not 100% backed by gold, but there was still the impression, the trust there, because that dollar you could exchange for gold at the bank. 1971, they stopped that because everybody was coming to the US and saying, hey, we don't think you have as much gold as you say that you do, so we want ours back. And when that happened, that's when the US panicked. They went off the gold standard. Most people didn't see it. Even fewer people understood the implications of that. And that's what we're living through today, 50 years later. And so gradually and slowly from 1971 up until 2025, the world has gone to shit. Every aspect of society has decreased. Our quality of life down, crime up, hospital visits up, food quality down, birth rate down. Everything that you look at, every chart, look at that website, WTFHappened1971.com. Everything went to shit from 1971. And at the time, probably nobody had any sort of idea what was happening there. So my theory now is that we're living through the exact opposite of that. The pendulum is swinging backwards. And we've seen signs of this in the last year. We saw Trump talk at the Bitcoin conference. You could kind of compare that to Nixon's speech. Trump's team, they've done numerous. They had the digital asset summit or whatever it was. We've seen numerous press conferences, numerous announcements around Bitcoin that would point to this, that we might not even realize until 50 years from now, when we look back and say, that was the Nixon moment, but for Bitcoin. And again, going back to this last part here that said individuals that adapt first will win. The early adopters will win the biggest, but individuals that adapt Bitcoin last will also win. Because just like in 1971, where everything gradually got worse for everybody without them not even knowing it, things are going to gradually get better here for everybody without them knowing it. So as we move onto a Bitcoin standard, we're kind of in the process of that right now. Whether people want to believe that or not, that's what's happening. And so my theory is that life is just going to continue to get better and better and better, and nobody's even going to know what happened there. Nobody's going to understand Bitcoin. I'd say that 90% of people will never understand Bitcoin, but they're not going to have to, because it allows for transparency, honesty, fairness. And when these companies and countries start showing proof of reserves and we actually have something backing our currency, everything changes. Because every single issue we have in our society right now comes from the fact that a small group of people can print money. And when you take that away from them, everything gets better. That's why I said individuals that adapt last will also win, because it's just going to improve everything. The catchphrase in Bitcoin is that Bitcoin fixes everything. And that's not necessarily the case. It fixes a lot of things, but the main thing is that you have a solid foundation, like the Bitcoin layer 1, that you can build on top of and bring back truth, transparency, honesty, and sovereignty to the world. So that's kind of my theory here. And most people, again, don't realize that this is happening. But the people who have realized that and who are taking action are going to be the ones who benefit the most from this, whether that's countries, companies, individuals. Every entity who adopts Bitcoin first will win. Whatever they're trying to do, they will win. And the ones who fail to do that are going to lose significantly. And it'll take some time to play out. But that's what's happening right now, in my opinion. The sneaky move to a Bitcoin standard.